Good morning everyone, we are the Group 3 and today we will be discussing the characters in Noli Me Tangere and what they represent. A seminal work that explains the wrongdoings committed while the Philippines was under the Spanish colonial rule, published in 1887, it depicts characters fighting against social injustice, religious hypocrisy and exploitation by colonists while exposing the tyranny and oppression that characterized the Philippine society during Spanish rule. The Latin title of the book, Touch Me Not, alludes to the book's themes of resistance and the yearning for freedom. Noli Me Tangere is considered a pillar of Filipino literature and nationalist discourse because of its striking portrayal of Filipino life and its indictment of colonial power structures, which greatly influenced the Philippine Revolution against Spanish rule.
Crisostomo Ibarra. Ibarra is a wealthy young man of mixed Spanish and Filipino ancestry. He has recently returned to the Philippines from Europe after spending 7 years studying abroad. His return to the Philippines is seen as a symbol of bringing progressive ideas and modern thought to a society entrenched in conservatism and colonial oppression. He is filled with progressive ideas and plans to contribute to the development of his country. He is optimistic about fostering reforms that will benefit the people and improve their lives. He is cultured and well-respected man, but the friars in San Diego are suspicious of him due to his father's imprisonment and death. He hopes to carry out his father's dream by building a secular school in San Diego, free from the influence of violent friars like Father Damaso and Father Salvi. Crisostomo Ibarra symbolizes hope. He embodies the optimism and idealism of the Filipino intellectual class who believe in the power of education and enlightenment to bring about positive change. Ibarra's effort to establish a school for the youth in his hometown signify his commitment to uplifting his countrymen through knowledge and empowerment. Ibarra's characters in the novel embody the cultural and identity struggles faced by many Filipinos during the late 19th century. Thus, Ibarra also symbolizes resistance, in which his character embodies the quiet defiance against the injustice and abuses perpetrated by the Spanish colonial authorities and entrenched elite. Through Ibarra's experiences, Rizal paints a vivid portrait of the complexities of colonial society and the indomitable spirit of resistance that characterized the Filipino struggle for independence. The tragic fate of his beloved Maria Clara, the betrayal of those he trusted, and the realization of the deep-seated corruption and inequality within society shatter his idealism and push him towards a path of greater introspection and resolve. In conclusion, Crisostomo Ibarra is not merely a fictional character, but a symbol of resilience, idealism, and the quest for national identity. His journey in Noli Me Tangere encapsulates the broader struggle of the Filipino people against oppression and serves as an enduring testament to their unwavering determination to reclaim their dignity and sovereignty. Maria Clara. Maria Clara is initially portrayed as the epitome of filial piety and feminine virtue. Raised in a convent under the guidance of the nuns, she embodies the qualities of modesty, obedience, and devotion expected of young women during that era. Maria Clara's character serves as a tragic symbol of the consequences of colonial oppression. Throughout the novel, she becomes a pawn in the power struggles and machinations of the colonial elite, particularly between her father and the corrupt friar Padre Salvi. Maria Clara's forced engagement to a man she does not love and her entrapment within a web of deceit and manipulation highlights the loss of agency and autonomy experienced by women under patriarchal and colonial structures. Furthermore, Maria Clara represents the suffering and resilience of Filipino women under colonial rule. Despite the injustice and betrayals she endures, Maria Clara maintains her composure and dignity, embodying a quiet strength that resonates with many oppressed individuals striving to preserve their integrity amidst adversity. Her character epitomizes the struggle faced by women and marginalized individuals in a society marked by inequality and oppression. Through Maria Clara's story, Rizal sheds light on the multifaceted experience of Filipinos grappling with colonialism and patriarchy, inviting readers to reflect on the complexities of identity, agency, and resilience in the face of adversity.
Padre Damaso is a fictional character in Jose Rizal's novel No Limitang Here, a seminal work in the Philippine literature. He served as a representation of the abusive and corrupt Spanish friars who wielded power over the Filipino people during the colonial period. So what does the character of Padre Damaso represents? First one is abuse of power. Padre Damaso abuses his authority as a friar to exert control over the lives of the people in his parish. He shows no empathy or concern for the well-beings of others, using his power to satisfy his own desire and whims. Padre Damaso embodies the cultural insensitivity of the Spanish friars toward the Filipino people. He looked down upon Filipino customs, tradition, and beliefs, imposing Spanish culture and values without regard for the indigenous culture of the Philippines. Third one is symbol of oppression. Padre Damaso represents the oppressive nature of Spanish colonial rule in the Philippines. His character serves as a reminder of the injustices and abuses suffered by the Filipino people under colonial domination. Next one is corruption. Padre Damaso embodies the corruption within the Catholic Church and the Spanish colonial administration. He exploits his position for personal gain and uses his authority to oppress the Filipino characters in the novel. And lastly is religious hypocrisy. Despite being a representative of the church, Padre Damaso's actions are often hypocritical. He preaches one thing but practices another, demonstrating a lack of genuine religious conviction and morality.
Padre Salve. He is described to be very thin and sickly. He also manipulates people to get what he wants. Around the 1880s, Padre Salve was assigned town curate of San Diego, gaining great influence over the townspeople. During this time, he also struggled for control over the town with the alferez of the Guardia Civil. At some point, he began lusting after Capitan Tiago's beautiful daughters Maria Clara.
Elias is another significant character in Jose Rizal's No Limitang Here. Unlike Padre Damaso, Elias represents resistance, empathy, and the connection to the Filipino identity and struggle against oppression. His character represents tragic heroism. Elias' character arc is marked by tragedy and sacrifice. Despite his courageous efforts to resist oppression and fight for the rights of his fellow countrymen, he ultimately meets a tragic end. His sacrifice underscores the harsh realities faced by those who dare to challenge the status quo, highlighting the personal cause of pursuing justice in a society plagued by injustice. Next one is Voice of Wisdom. Throughout the novel, Elias serves as a voice of reason and wisdom. He offers insightful perspective on the social and political issues plaguing Filipino society, guiding the protagonists and others towards a deeper understanding of their circumstances. His wisdom highlights the intelligence and the resilience of the Filipino people in navigating adversity and pursuing justice. And lastly, symbol of hope. Despite the challenges he faces, Elias remains a symbol of hope and inspiration for the Filipino people. His unwavering commitment to justice and freedom inspires others to join the struggle against colonial oppression, fostering a sense of unity and solidarity among the oppressed masses.
Isabel Alba is the aunt of Maria Clara, the novel's main female character, and the cousins of Capitan Tiago. She serves as the head housekeeper in the De Los Santos homestead, where Maria Clara lives with her father, Don Santiago. Isabel Alba is known for her wisdom, dedication, and strong sense of responsibility towards her family. Isabel Alba plays a pivotal role in Noli Me Tangere as she supports and guides Maria Clara throughout the story, as Maria Clara navigates the challenges of her new life and the complexities of the Spanish colonial societies. Isabel Alba provides her with valuable advice and encouragement. She helps Maria Clara maintain her integrity and uphold Filipino values amidst the corruption and moral decay prevalent in the colonial setting. Isabel Alba represents several key themes in Noli Me Tangere. Firstly, she symbolizes the resilience and strength of traditional Filipino values in the face of foreign influence and exploitation. Her unwavering commitment to her family and her dedication to preserving their honor reflect the deep-rooted cultural values that Rizal aimed to highlight in his novel. Secondly, Isabel Alba embodies the importance of loyalty and support within the Filipino family structure. As a devoted caretaker and confidante to Maria Clara, she demonstrates the significance of close familial bonds and the role they play in shaping individuals' life. These aspects of her character serves as a counterpoint to the selfish and manipulative behavior exhibited by many other characters in the novel, particularly those representing the Spanish colonial authorities. Doña Victorina, a wealthy, eccentric, and arrogant woman in Manila, represents the snobbery and materialism of the Spanish colonial society. She is the wife of Don Tiburcio. Doña Victorina's character serves as a critic of the damaging effect of colonialism on Filipino identity and the erosion of traditional values customs. Doña Victorina's character is primarily used by Rizal to satirize the elite class of Filipinos who aspire to emulate the Spaniards in every aspect, including their mannerism, language, and lifestyle. She represents the Filipinos who were eager to distance themselves from their indigenous roots in favor of adopting their identity of their colonizers. This behavior is seen as shallow and pretentious, highlighting the externalized inferiority complex that many colonized individuals experience. Additionally, Doña Victorina symbolizes the misguided pursuit of social status and acceptance through cultural assimilation. Her obsessions with appearing European and her disdains for anything native reflect the internalized racism and self-hatred that were common among the educated Filipino elite during that time. Rizal uses her character to critique the damaging effect of colonialism on Filipino identity and the erosion of traditional values and customs.
Sisa is the daring mother of Basilio and Crispin. She is described as a beautiful and young. Although she loves her children very much, she can protect them from the beating of her husband Pedro. She was a caring but submissive woman, unable to stand up to her abusive husbands and later the Guardia Civil. Sisa went from one traumatic event to another, causing her to eventually lose her sanity due to the mental burner. This insanity manifested had in her wandering around San Diego, calling out her children's names and singing songs out of nowhere. Before her descent into madness, however, Sisa was a generous mother to her sons, as well as evil toward people like her neighbor Pilosopo Tasio. And also, Sisa as a one of prepared to die of her house rather than to humiliate by being arrested by the Guardia Civil. Sisa personified the suffering of the motherland. She was named after Rizal's sister Narcisa.
Crispin represents the exploited and oppressed lower class in the Philippines during Spanish colonial rule. He is portrayed as a young child who serves an untruthful sacristan mayor who mistreats and takes advantage of him and his brother Basilio. A powerful commentary on the abuse of power and social injustice that was common at the time is provided by Crispin's tragic fate, which was symbolized by his unjust death at the hands of the friars. Crispin is additionally responsible for the innocence and helplessness of Filipino youth, who were frequently the targets of the harsh colonial government. His persona brings attention to the harsh realities that the weaker segments of society must contend with, and his tragic passing serves as a catalyst for the movement toward social change and resistance to colonial oppression. Through Crispin, Rizal emphasizes the pressing need for social change as well as the struggle for equality and justice in a culture rife with abuse and exploitation. Basilio symbolizes the youth of the Philippines' struggle against the harsh Spanish colonial government. Basilio is first shown as a gifted and promising student, but as he gets mixed up in society's injustice and corruption, his tragic character arc takes shape. His experiences, especially the death of his mother from malnutrition and his subsequent fall into poverty, highlighting the terrible circumstances that many Filipinos endured while living under Spanish rule. The journey of Basilio represents in small the greater social issues that Rizal attempted to tackle in his book, such as the disadvantage of the poor, the abuse of power by colonial authorities, and the pressing need for social reform. In addition, Basilio is a living example of resilience and optimism in the face of hardship. Even though Basilio faces many obstacles, such as losing loved ones and living under constant fear of violence, he is insistent about changing his situation and pursuing justice for the wrong. The spirit of resistance and the pursuit of freedom that define the Filipino struggle for independence are reflected in his unwavering dedication to education and his ultimate decision to join the revolutionary movement.
Don Rafael Ibarra. Don Rafael Ibarra is a significant character who represents the ideas of justice, freedom, and enlightenment. Don Rafael is the father of Crisostomo Ibarra, the protagonist of the novel. He is portrayed as a wealthy and educated Filipino who has studied in Europe and has a progressive mindset. Don Rafael Ibarra symbolizes the aspiration of the Filipino people for social reform and independence from Spanish colonial rule. His character embodies the desire for a just and fair society where Filipinos are treated as equal and are given the opportunity to progress and thrive. Through Don Rafael Ibarra, results highlight the injustice and abuses suffered by the Filipino people under Spanish colonial rule. Don Rafael's tragic fate and the novel serve as powerful commentary on the offensive nature of the Spanish regime and the struggles faced by the Filipino people in their quest for freedom and equality. Overall, Don Rafael Ibarra is a vital character in Don Noli Me Tangere who represents the ideas of justice, freedom, and enlightenment. His character serves as catalyst for the events that unfold in the novel and embodies the spirit of resistance against oppression and injustice.
Examine the present Philippine situation through the examples mentioned in the Noli.
Corruption and abuse of power, religious influence, identity, and nationalism are the present Philippine situation mentioned in the Noli. Corruption. The prevalence of corruption in contemporary Philippine society is reminiscent of the widespread misuse of authority portrayed in Noli Me Tangere. Incidents of bribery, embezzlement, and cronyism impede the nation's socio-economic progress by undermining public trust in institutions, perpetuating inequality, and undermining governance. Power abuse. Power abuse by political elites and authorities continue in the Philippines today, mirroring the oppression portrayed in Noli Me Tangere. Human rights violation, authoritarian tendencies, and corruption scandals shows that the systematic injustice that erode public confidence in government and sustain social inequality are still in place. Religious influence, apparent with the Catholic Church continuing to have a big influence on society, especially when it comes to morality and social policy. The persistent impact of religion on public discourse and policymaking is demonstrated by the frequent intersection of religious beliefs with debates over topics like the death penalty, LGBTQ+ rights, and reproductive health. Identity. Discussions about national identity resurrect the themes of Noli Me Tangere with arguments concerning historical narratives, cultural heritage, and the preservation of Filipino identity in the face of globalization. Concerns like language conservation, indigenous rights, and fostering Filipino cultural expression all influence the nation's continuous quest for a unified national identity. Nationalism. Debates over sovereignty, historical memory, and cultural preservation reflect ongoing efforts to assert Filipino national identity and resist outside influence, underscoring the enduring relevance of Rizal's exploration of nationalism in the context of colonial oppression. Nationalism continues to be a driving force in shaping societal discourse and political action, echoing the themes of resistance and identity portrayed in Noli Me Tangere.